In this video, we're going to talk about CD Projekt Red, the maker of The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, and Cyberpunk 2077's acquisition of Molasses Flood, a Newton, Massachusetts-based studio. Subscribe to the Linus Wilson channel. We give you the secrets to crush The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077. So that this is finally some good news after a slate of bad news we've had. We had the postponement of Cyberpunk 2077's and The Witcher 3's next-gen upgrade earlier this week. I was really expecting The Witcher 3 next-gen upgrade to come out before Christmas to coincide with the launch of Season 2 of The Witcher on Netflix, but unfortunately it was postponed until Q2 2022, which was a shock to me because it was an external studio that was working on that, but I guess the same factors that are causing all studios to delay their projects are affected the outsourced studio in terms of The Witcher 3's next-gen upgrade. I think that, the problem has been, and I've been talking about this for several years, is that I don't think that CD Projekt Red is big enough to be a dual franchise studio, and so they need to grow if they're going to be able to implement both franchises in a reasonable timeline. And the launch of Cyberpunk 2077, with all its problems, has made this painfully obvious that they have not come out over, well, we're not over a year, but it's looking like we're going to go over a year without any paid expansions for Cyberpunk 2077, and no substantial expansions. The only DLCs that we've had are, kind of cosmetic type stuff, small things that are not going to really get a lot of people to jump back into the game. And unfortunately, both The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk are hitting the bargain basement bins, although Witcher 3 I think is doing much better in terms of its playership. So there's basically, two big projects that they need help on, is that they need more paid expansions for Cyberpunk 2077, and they need a Witcher 4 game. The fourth Witcher game may not involve Geralt, probably won't, probably will be a different Witcher that we're going to feature, and possibly a customizable one, but they really need more people to implement that in a reasonable amount of time, as well as do all the work for Cyberpunk 2077. That Cyberpunk 2077 needs a paid expansion. Will it get it? I don't know. At this point, I'm starting to doubt it, and they may be working on solely The Witcher 4. But I think the news that came out today indicates that it is going to be, the new studio is working on a AAA narrative-focused RPG. And I'm absolutely sure we're going to get Snowy fanboy comments saying how awful CD Projekt Red is, blah, 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 blah. But really, it's just getting old at this point. Grow up. There are definitely worse studios than CD Projekt. All right, so let's look at the press releases from both CD Projekt and also the studio they acquired. Okay, so this tweet came out on October 22nd, 2021. Molasses Flood, a video games development studio located in Boston, joins CD Projekt Group. Welcome to the family. All right, and so here's the press release. CD Projekt announces acquisition of U.S.-based developer The Molasses Flood, founded in Boston 2014 by Bioshock, Halo, and Guitar Hero and Rock Band series veterans. The Molasses Flood is known for survival and base-building games The Flame in the Flood and Drake Hollow. We're always on the lookout for teams who make games with heart, says Adam Kiciński, president and joint CEO, CD Projekt. The Molasses Flood shares our passion for video game development and their experience, quality-oriented, and have a great technological insight. I'm convinced they will bring a lot of talent and determination to the group. From the inception, Molasses Flood, it was our goal to create games that touch people, says Forrest Dowling, studio head at Molasses Flood. When CD Projekt approached us about the possibility of working together, we saw an incredible opportunity to reach a much wider audience through collaboration with a company we love, creating games and worlds we love. We could not be more excited to continue our mission with the support of CD Projekt and their incredibly talented team. The Molasses Flood will be working on close cooperation with CD Projekt Red, but will keep their current identity and will not be merged with existing teams. The studio will be working on its own ambitious project, which is based on one of CD Projekt's IPs. Details about the project will be announced in the future, right? And then, Molasses Flood sent out this tweet today, too. It says, "Howdy, folks. We got some pretty cool news. Molasses Flood has officially joined CD Projekt. So what does this mean? We get to build a completely new game in the universe." See, they say completely new game. That makes me think Witcher 4. We get to build a completely new game in the universe of existing CD Projekt IP. We get to hire a lot more folks, and we get to keep making games based on the same principles that have guided us. I mean, it's also possible that they could be working on the next Cyberpunk game. We're also staying in Molasses Flood, although we probably add a CG Projekt studio to that pretty often. And when we started talking with CD Projekt, they made clear they weren't looking simply to absorb us, but to rather embrace us and support our culture and growth. We would love to talk about what we're working on, but we're going to have to wait for now. In the meantime, we're hiring, so if you're interested in seeing what we're up to, send along a resume. Thanks for reading, and we can't wait to share more in the future. Forrest Dowling, studio director, The Molasses Flood, a CD Projekt studio. All right, so and here they've got this careers section, right? And they've got a lot of open positions. I think lead narrative designer, I think, is particularly interesting, right? So the lead narrative designer, it says, you'll be the first member of a growing team and will have a unique opportunity to build a team, narrative, and tools to support both. This is a leadership position and will involve hiring and managing a team of writers, as well as working across all disciplines to ensure that the narrative is running through all decisions that we create. So, I mean, this really sounds like, hey, this is really too late to be working on the narrative for a DLC for Cyberpunk. So this sounds like a new Witcher game, right? A new Cyberpunk game. This is a full-time salaried position at our office in Greater Boston area. Relocation assistance is available. Manage writing and narrative processes both vertically within the narrative development, horizontally across all departments. Coordinate with writers and narrative designers. And these are U.S. positions. So I think one of the things that I've just basically advocated for several years with CD Projekt is that they need to develop the multi-studio model. So they got a Vancouver studio, now they got a Boston studio in addition to their Polish studios. I think that's a good idea. That they need the multi-studio model to turn out the games faster. The fact that I think they're basically done with patching for Cyberpunk, to be honest. Despite what all the Snowy fanboys say, I think it's probably a pretty clean game on all platforms at this point. I never had any problems with it for Cyberpunk, but it's looking like we're going to have to wait over a year for a paid expansion, if there ever is one, right? If there ever is a substantial expansion. I don't think they've not even added an extra quest, from what I can tell, which is kind of amazing, and it's just way behind to where they were with The Witcher 3 in terms of the rollout of expansions. So, I mean, it's conceivable. I just think that if they have different kind of studios, they're going to be able to work more independently and would be better suited to implement a dual franchise model. So if they really think that they want to make another Cyberpunk game, they need an independent studio that's working on that's not drawn into The Witcher 4, right? And vice versa. And it's also not a bad idea that you've already allocated resources to the DLCs before you get to the launch day, right? But the problem with CD Projekt, I think, is that they are everybody is focused on just getting to the first launch day. There's no slack in the system, right? And so when Cyberpunk went live, or when they started selling in December 12th, 2020, there was no slack. There was no extra work that was done towards a expansion, from what I can tell, and there wasn't a lot of work done towards Witcher 4, right? So we had to, we're at 2021, and we're basically at the start of the development cycle for Witcher 4, right? Which is arguably the more profitable franchise. It's definitely the more profitable franchise at this point. Let me know what you think in the comments. Subscribe to the Linus Wilson channel. We give you the secrets to crush Cyberpunk 2077 and The Witcher 3.